everybody, and welcome to another episode of Clarity in the Chaos, which we attempt to bring some vertical clarity into the midst of our horizontal chaos. Years ago, when we first moved out from the city to more of the country, my dad wanted to have chickens, and so we built a house, a small house for them to be in, and put up a fence around the area in which they would live. And it was important because not just to keep the chickens in, but to keep other animals out who might want to get them. So at night, the chickens would all go in their little house, and we'd go close the doors and windows to keep them safe. And they lived there for many years, and we had eggs and chickens over that time because they were safe within their fence. We get to the book of Proverbs in chapter 25. We find a verse that talks about the importance of keeping up barriers and guards for our heart and our mind. And at a day and time when we are facing uncertainty, there are a lot of thoughts and a lot of emotions and a lot of voices that want to play out in our head and in our heart. And it's important that we know which ones get to stay in the room for a conversation and which ones need to go, which ones need to stay out of the room, which ones we need to tell immediately to leave. Proverbs chapter 25, the very last verse in that chapter says this: "Whoever has no rule over his own spirit is like a city broken down without walls." So he gives us a point, and then he makes a picture. He says, whoever has no rule or control, no protection, no guards, no boundaries, no accountability for their spirit. It's reference to the center of a man, the core, his own soul. This is where the voices speak to us. This is our thoughts, but it's deeper than our thoughts. This is emotions, but deeper than that as well. He says, whoever does not have a protective boundary there, they let every thought in and they entertain it. They let it play out. Whoever lets every emotion have free rein to control, to dominate, to run its course. Whoever allows every voice that's speaking from outside or even inside, who allows every person's opinion and allows even their own thoughts, their own understanding to reign. He says, that person who has no walls up, who doesn't protect what's happening in their spirit, they let hurt remain, they let fear play out, they let anxiety have its way, they let depression have its way, they let lies in, they let all the voices talk all the time, and they attempt to discern themselves which ones, they get to play out all of their thoughts instead of saying, wait a minute, stop. You don't get to talk here. You don't get to have room here. Whoever is like this, whoever has no rule over his own spirit, that person is like a city who has no walls. Now, in the day that this was written, walls were very, very important for a city. They've always been important whenever there are people attempting to live. Perhaps you have a fence around your yard. You have a lock on your front door. You have a security system in place. You have virus protection on your computer. You have programs that protect your phone. All of those things are ways that we put up walls and barriers to protect what is important to us. And he says a city without protection from the enemy is open to attack, much like my dad's chickens would have been had they just had free roam in the yard. If there were no barriers, no protections, we would not have had chickens very long. So there is a place where we as followers of Jesus Christ are to put up some walls and some barriers and to tell some thoughts you don't get to have a space here in the room. To tell some emotions, to tell some voices, you don't get to sit at the table, because I listen to what God says and I don't have to listen to what you say. The very lie of the Garden of Eden was that by eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that man himself would take in all thoughts and decide for himself which ones he would keep and let in and let out. But the way of faith says, God, I trust what you say above all other voices. I don't have to let them all in and figure out which ones are right and scientifically accurate and I like and don't like and what people think about them. No, I choose by faith to follow what your word says. I choose by faith to say what you say. I choose by faith to believe what you put within me. Therefore, I'll trust in you. I don't have to entertain all the other thoughts. And so we're called to be people, walls up, boundaries set in place, clarity in our room, in our heart, at the table. We don't have to be like a city with the walls broken down, where thieves come in and steal, where our mind is a slave to every thought, where our emotions are a slave to every feeling. Instead, we are called to be in a position of ruling and reigning. I love a New Testament verse that refers to this and the power we have to set up the boundaries and let Christ reign. Here it is from Romans 5:17. It says, "For if by one man's offense death reigned through the one, much more those who receive the abundance of grace and of the gift of righteousness, they will reign in life through the one Jesus Christ." Those who say, God, I believe you and I receive your gift of grace and righteousness, that person, they will reign. They will be in a place of ruling. They will be able to say thoughts, lies, voices, emotions. You don't come in here. I have been given boundaries already. I trust my God. I'm in a place of reigning. You can become more than a conqueror this way. So don't allow every thought in. Don't allow every emotion in. Stand in Christ. Know what truth is. Believe that by faith. Let Him decide what thought comes in, what truth comes in. Let Him be the one who determines your life, and you will find great peace, great hope, and you'll find great clarity in the midst of your chaos.